Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Mike Hill, Geoff Mosher is here. We are live inside the Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort, inside the gallery in Atlantic City, a 12,000 square foot gaming bar experience, and it is the centerpiece of this unbelievable facility. And we are here every Monday, and Geoff Mosher is here on Mondays for another edition of Football at 4 on the Sports Bash. Now, Mosher, was 2 days ago, or Sunday, Saturday, I guess 3 days ago that it all happened, but there's so much to unpack from the game, and everybody's talking about Saquon Barkley. Did he exceed your expectations?
In some areas he did. Like the wheel route touchdown that he caught was really phenomenal. And it's not that we didn't think Saquon Barkley could catch passes, but if you go look at his career, mostly it's dump offs, right? It might be like mid-range passes, route running, and the ability to make that adjustment midair to catch that ball. That's special. You don't see that at a lot of even really good running backs. So that was really impressive to see. Some of the other runs where he did show burst, no. I mean, that's what you get with Saquon Barkley. I felt like there were about 2 or 3 runs, though, where it's called getting skinny through the hole, where you don't see a great lane. Like the touchdown he scored, great jump cut and all, but that was a huge wide lane. Mike, you might have been able to run through it if you could juke the safety the way he did. But other runs, a couple others, he kind of was able to get skinny through the hole. It's like you tighten your body, you use your speed and athleticism to find that crease, and you hit the hole quickly and get the game. I thought he did that fairly well 2 or 3 times as well.
Yeah, I know obviously they create this offense, and you're thinking about how they're going to do it. What's Kellen Moore's offense going to look like here? How's it going to be different from what they did in the past? Well, I want to get your hypothesis, because a lot of the talk is about motion, and that was one of the key things here. Kellen Moore's new-look offense for the Eagles, we saw it on Friday night. Jalen Hurts, motion. Philadelphia used motion 51% of their plays, the highest rate in a game since 2021. Hurts had a QBR of 81.9 when they used motion. Without motion, 9.3. Mm-hmm. What do you make of those numbers?
No, I make of it that the motion did its job. It worked. They used it a lot. Now, they used it in mostly out of shotgun formations, mostly in the passing game. That's where it helped them the most, as you mentioned. Jalen Hurts' QBR, it was up. So that was good signs. I mean, this is what we felt the offense needed after last year. It needed fresh concepts. They were the fewest. They ran the fewest motion in the league last year, and I think even the year before. So it's not a staple or even a feature of Nick Sirianni's offense. It is of Kellen Moore's, and you saw not just on the Saquon touchdown, but they brought in Will Shipley in the 2 running back formation, used him in motion to get Devontae Smith open on the left side in his zone. I mean, they used it as much as they could, and it clearly helped. So that was a good thing because, Jalen Hurts hasn't seen that a lot, and we were all wondering, would motion be something that he could adapt and adjust to? Would it benefit him? Would he be able to do what he wanted to do with all the moving parts? Because sometimes it bothers quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins is in sort of a Shanahan-style offense now down in Atlanta, and he's a guy who's used to being under center quite a bit, at least more than most quarterbacks, and they didn't do that a lot, and you kind of saw that Atlanta offense struggle, and you wonder, is that not a great fit for their quarterback? So it was good to see that the motion itself and the concepts worked, and that it helped Jalen Hurts move the chains when he needed to.
I was going to say, 34 points. Did you think that the offense could have actually been better?
Yes, 100%. I do think it can be better. I think they can be a more consistent running team. I think that, I think we're going to have to re-examine our discussion as the season goes on of the zone reads, the quarterback keepers, because obviously Green Bay defended them really well. They packed the box. They almost tried to force Jalen Hurts into those situations. They were able to do that and then be able to stop Jalen Hurts from those design runs hurting them. In fact, I think that they were really happy with how they defended those and put the Eagles behind the sticks a couple of times because of it. I think first down passing, the numbers aren't great. And I would say in third down offense overall, they only converted 29% on third down. Like, you're not going to win a lot of games where you convert 29% third down, you have more turnovers than your opponent, and you have fewer offensive yards than your opponent. But that's what the Eagles did. So some of that is a little bit of luck, right? So I do think there's definitely room for the offense to get better in some areas.
Geoff Mosher, Football at 4 from the Inside the Birds podcast. We're asking people what's a word you would use to describe Jalen Hurts. I said he was kind of uneven. I thought he played well about 85% of the game. He made a couple bad decisions, but those bad decisions are ones that cost you in the big moments. You got to erase them. But for the most part, these people that said, he didn't play well, I think that's going a little too far. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I wouldn't say he didn't play well. I would say he certainly made mistakes. I think Jordan Love is a guy you look at, and you could equally say, yeah, he made some really good throws, but he also didn't play well. I mean, if you go to the third quarter, after they score on the Christian Watson touchdown, they got 2 3-and-outs in a row from the Eagles offense. And both times the Packer offense was stalled because Jordan Love missed a wide open guy, whether it was Romeo Doubs or Jaden Reed. I mean, Jaden Reed was 20 yards open in the middle of his zone, and the ball got thrown at his feet, right? So, but does that mean Jordan Love had a terrible game? No, I thought Jordan Love also made some really good throws too. To describe Jalen's game, Mike, to me, I would say he has the ability, and we've seen this before, to be good to average for a couple of quarters, and then in the fourth quarter, and we saw this a lot last year in the 10-1 start, just put a cape on, right? And he didn't run the ball well until the fourth quarter, where he had a few scrambles that were backbreaking, and all of a sudden he's hitting Devontae Smith on third down with some really precise throws. So he helped them win the game. He made great plays in the second half and the fourth quarter to help them win. That's what you need your quarterback to do. So yes, did he make mistakes? Yes. Was there uneven play? Sure. But I wouldn't quite say he was a liability for the team.
I'll give you some of the names, the words that have been coming in. Inconsistent, shaky, roller coaster, sufficient, adequate, meh. So it doesn't sound like a lot of people were all that impressed with Hurts. I thought the 2 interceptions, especially the one down in the end zone, Geoff, you got points on the board if you just throw that ball away, and the points on the board extend your lead to a 2-score game. That's an inexcusable one, right? That one to me is you've got to know time and score better than to make that decision.
100%. So, I think it's fair to say some of those adjectives like inconsistent or shaky, it's kind of rough for a team that had over 400 yards. I mean, it's not like he didn't make really important plays, especially some really nice throws to A.J. Brown. He made 2 throws like that a lot of quarterbacks don't make. Not the touchdown to A.J. Brown, but there was the play where he was sort of getting hit by a free rusher, and he just hung in there and made a great throw to Brown on the left side for first down. I think it was 3rd and 8, if I'm not mistaken. That's a heck of a throw. He made another one where he got rid of the ball to Saquon Barkley on the left side. It was Saquon's other catch that wasn't the touchdown, where, again, he was under some pressure and needed to find a target and did. And, did Daniel Jones make that play? I know that shouldn't be the measuring stick. I get that. But my point is he made some special plays throughout the game, and I think you have to give him credit. I get that we tend to look at the negative sometimes more than the positive, and I get that he did make mistakes that you don't want a veteran quarterback to make. So I agree with some of the inconsistent or shaky, but I do think you have to give him credit for making the really important plays that also help them win the game.
So what would you say about Kellen Moore's debut? I mean, you would think that there's way more peels of the onion from him as well. So what did you if you were to kind of give him a review here about Moore, and then how what you could see kind of moving forward, building off of this night?
Definitely got the job done. He came as advertised. That was the expression that I used in the pod this morning. I mean, we expected to see formational diversity. We expected to see trips, bunch, motion, misdirection. And we did. We saw it all, and it yielded positive results for the most part. There's areas to improve. They were not very good when they were operating under center, which is usually a big part of Kellen Moore's offense, and they were not very good out of the pistol. That doesn't mean it's his fault. I mean, he's learning, right? what his team is good at and what it's not good at, and you can't just run one variation of a play all the time too. You've got to be able to do some of these things. But, you just have to have the right balance of it, and you have to put your team in position to succeed. And I think for the most part, he did that. It looked like there were answers. Now, the Packers here's what's surprising, Mike. The Packers did not come after Jalen Hurts.
They blitzed 9 times.
As I thought.
They blitzed 9 times.
And guess what? Those 9 blitzes were not the house, right? It was like one extra man. Like 5, when you're rushing 5 against a 5-man offensive line, yeah, it's a blitz, but it's not an extra man, right? So I was a bit surprised on that from the new defensive coordinator. Maybe that's something that he'll rethink today. But we'll see if Kellen Moore has more answers for a team that's going to be a little bit more aggressive with him. And that might be Monday night with Raheem Morris's defense in Atlanta. In Philadelphia, but against Atlanta.
Real quick, obviously Brown had the bigger night because he had the big play. But I thought Smith made some of the key plays in the game late. That it felt like when they needed a catch, that was the guy they went to.
Yeah, I agree. I think he had more catches, right, than A.J. Brown. If you go look, probably more third down catches as well. And I love the aggression on second down on a final drive to throw the slant to him as you're trying to, put a few more points on the board to edge that out. That was the guy he went to, Devontae Smith. And I think it's going to be like that. I honestly, because partly of Kellen Moore's offense and how versatile receivers who line up outside and inside, like CeeDee Lamb, Keenan Allen, have flourished in it, I've been saying with you for quite a while, I think Devontae Smith could have an even better year than the last 2 years, which you automatically expect a little bit of improvement, but it could be like one of those sort of breakout years.
The offensive line too. Becton, there was some questions there, and also the center spot. Those were the 2 spots that everybody was wondering. No Kelsey, and then Becton getting his first snaps at right guard. How did that work out?
You know what? Pretty good. Now again, not a lot of pressure, so, you're just basically blocking your man straight up. But, he was going up against Kenny Clark, who's good. And I'll give you a little, I don't know how many people are talking about this today. The Saquon Barkley wheel route touchdown that we just talked about before, the Packers actually blitzed on that. And the way that's a slow developing play, right? Jalen has to roll to his right. He has to fake it first. Then Saquon's got to roll out. There's got to be the motion into the play. But that play was made possible because Juergens, so the left guard pulled, Dickerson pulled. So Juergens had to take the left defensive tackle, and Becton then had to leave his man, the right defensive tackle, and take on the blitzer, and then Lane had to take on Becton's guy. So my point is, you need that kind of communication. I don't know if they were expecting a blitz there. But with a guard pulling, they all needed to switch off their men, and they did it very well to give Jalen Hurts just enough time to be able to make that throw. So I was really impressed with Becton being able to do that, being able to handle, tapping the center, in his first time playing right guard. There were a couple of runs where I thought he double teamed on. So I don't want to sit here and tell you that this is going to work and it's great because, we can never make too much off one game. But it's Kenny Clark. So it was a good debut for Mekhi Becton, and hopefully something that they can build on.
Yeah, obviously you had the one center. Actually, you had 2. You had the Juergens. He snapped it early, hit Hurts in the chest, and then there was a exchange on the sideline. And then there was what'd you think of the Tush push? They didn't get it once, and then on the goal line they didn't. The snap was they didn't get. So is that something that might be finding its way out of the offense?
I think I might be tempted to just give the ball to Saquon Barkley and still work. I don't think the Tush push could go away because it's so effective. I just think that they got to keep working on it, drilling it in practice. I think Cam Juergens has to develop that sort of veteran savvy about the way Jason Kelsey used to manipulate the ball a little bit at the snap there for that to happen. But, you should still be able to get it. You still have a lot of beef up on that offensive line. So,
talk with Geoff Mosher. Let's go to the defense. Vic Fangio. I said earlier, Jeff, I thought the defense won them the game. Now, they didn't play great, but those 2 stops they got in the first quarter, that's the difference in the game. They're giving up the field goals here. So what'd you think of Vic Fangio's unit overall in his first night?
Yeah, I mean, I can see how you can make that argument. Certainly those red zone stops that they had early on came out to be critical. There were, we mentioned a couple of the drops in the middle of the field. I mean, obviously in the red zone, there was that ball that Moro Jomo did an excellent job rushing Love into a high pass to Dobbs right there. I think it was the third quarter, and it was out of his reach. Christian Watson should have had one, but he slipped. So defense got a little bit lucky too. And obviously they have to tighten up their run defense. Now, I watched it today, and I don't think it was a gap integrity issue. So I don't know if that's a positive or a negative. If it's a gap problem and guys are confused and not in the right spot, you can say, all right, well, that's correctable. If it's guys just not able to get off blocks, you go, uh-oh, right? And that's kind of what I saw, guys just not being able to get off blocks against certain runs, and then just bad tackling. But, Mike, we always see bad tackling for the first 3 weeks of the season. I know the Eagles practiced longer. I know they practiced harder, but they're still not hitting like the Chiefs hit and other teams that hit. So you're going to see that probably. And listen, Monday night might be a little rough with Bijan Robinson and Algier, and they're going to run, and they're going to run out of different formations because that's what the Shanahan style offense is all about. So it'll be a pretty big test for the Eagles defense to see if they are better.
You did get a lot of that. I want to get your thoughts. Huff. I was not a big fan of the signing, and I know a lot of people, Friday night, if you were watching, a lot of people would not have seen him because he was non-existent in the game. What do you make of Huff from that first game? Concern or not really? I mean, he'll be fine.
What number is Huff wearing again? Remind me.
Yes, a 0.
Yeah. I think you just said it best.
He is wearing number 0.
Yeah, and I think that was the same as his input on the stat sheet, to be honest with you. You didn't get much out of him.
Nothing. You got nothing. In fact, at one point of the game, Blackledge, who was doing the game, said, you haven't heard of Bryce Huff. It was in the fourth. That was the first and only time he was mentioned the entire night to tell us that you hadn't heard about him at all.
I know. It was like an offensive lineman. They say it's not good if you hear his name. That's what it was like for Bryce Huff, but he wasn't the only one. I mean, I know Josh Sweat was able to draw a holding against Rasheed Walker, the left tackle, and gave him a little work at times, but I think just one quarterback hit, and we didn't get much from anything from Nolan Smith either. And what was interesting was Brandon Graham played more snaps than Nolan Smith and I think Bryce Huff.
And Huff.
So, yeah, well, but in fairness, Brandon Graham also actually, I didn't realize this until I watched it today, played some snaps on the interior as well. So it's not like those guys were coming off and he was coming on. But the bottom line is he did play more snaps than them, and none of your edge rushers really produced that well, which is
no, not at all.
Something we talked about. Yeah, big concern.
Yeah, the edge rushers, had a rough day at the office, and obviously Bryce Huff got he got paid a lot of money to come here and kind of replace Hassan Reddick, and you did not get any impact there. I got to get the Baun, though. That might have been one of the best defensive performances from a player, period, in all the time we've done this together, Jeff. That I don't know that you can depend on that, but, man, the way they used him and what he brought to the table, either the Saints completely whiffed on him or he just had one of those nights.
Yeah, this is one where I'm really interested to see the larger sample size because when I watched it, rewatched it, I saw what you just said. Good range, good instincts, fast to the ball, warm to the ball, and really the most important contribution he made, carrying the 3 there, running with Musgrave, I think it was, the slot flex tight end. That forced Jordan Love. He tried to force the ball in anyway, and then Reed Blankenship undercut the route and picked it off. That was great. That was fantastic to see your linebacker run with a tight end like that. That's a good 10. So, and then just have the understand where to be in his drop. So very good. But, when I did look at those Josh Jacobs runs and those Emmanuel Wilson runs, a couple of them, he's not the culprit, but he's one of the 2 or 3 guys not getting off his block either, So I want a bigger sample size, but of course, to your point, for a guy who never played the position before, very, very encouraging to see him showcase those skills that he did showcase.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on Dean, because it's funny. I had one of my buddies texting me that he stinks. I had another guy texting me, Dean's great. I mean, you talk about a guy who was all over the map. I thought he was like Jalen Hurts. He had some splash plays that stood out that if you were kind of just observing, you're like, oh, he's making some plays. And then, against the run, I thought he had a rough time. What'd you think of Nakobe Dean's night?
Yeah, exactly. Early first quarter, we talked about some of those red zone stops, right? Some of those Josh Jacobs runs that they were hoping inside the 5 or 10 to get into the end zone. Well, Dean did a really good job of sneaking through some gaps and making some plays there. And I'm like, all right, I saw like 3, 4, 5 maybe plays where he got downhill, got into his gap, and made the play. No doubt about it. Also saw a couple of those runs, like I mentioned with Bond and others, where he did not make a play or was blocked out. Not the biggest guy in the world, so you can't have offensive linemen on him. And then there were a few times in coverage. I think the big one on the left side, I can't remember, was it Jaden Reed, who was wide open and caught the ball and sort of caught Nakobe Dean out of place there in his zone drop. So that's kind of what we've come to expect a little bit with the Eagles linebackers, is that they're going to give you certain things well, and then other areas they're going to get exploited, and we did see that.
The last guy I want to get your take on is Mitchell. My take for Mitchell was he can play. He might get beat here or there somewhere, but he showed me that this guy is cocky, confident, and he can play in this league. I think they found something in Mitchell that they can be very confident that they hit on.
Yeah, I was encouraged. Like you said, physical player. That, first of all, just being a physical corner, I think for an Eagles corner has to be impressive to the fan who's watched such a long time off coverage or a guy seemingly not stepping up to the challenge. So really happy with that. Did he give up a couple of, catches and yards? Yeah, of course. They targeted him because he's a rookie, and they know that. So, and that's going to happen. But I think it's a good foundation. Had a couple of breakups. Had a big one on the left side to, I think, Christian Watson. And he also had, I guess he was credited with a breakup where really Dobbs beat him on an out route, and Love threw it to the inside shoulder instead of the outside shoulder. So Mitchell was able to get his hands on it, which is great. Good job by Mitchell. But, 9 times out of 10, when Love's having a better game or a quarterback having a better game, they're going to make that play against him. But he made the play when it was there to be made, and that's a great thing.
Geoff Mosher, week 1 is in the books. The Eagles will play next Monday night, so a week from tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. They host the Atlanta Falcons, and, of course, we'll have plenty more on that game, getting you ready for it, and a look back at this game. Check out the Inside the Birds podcast. The guys break down that game as more is looking forward to what happens next with this offense. I thought that field was a factor. They scored 34, and we'll see the next evolution of it next week here on week 2, already week 2. Unbelievable. But the game tonight, you can listen to Monday Night Football on 97.3 ESPN, Jets and Niners. Geoff Mosher's back on Wednesday as we get ready for week number 2. All right, buddy. We'll talk to you then.
All right, Mike. Thanks.